Hi there, my name is Sandra, and you're watching The Schwoven's Nest. Welcome to my Christmas series. If you haven't already done so, I would love it if you could hit that subscribe button. Check out this beautiful winter scene. Can you believe it came from a Dollar Tree shopping bag? I'm going to use this and I'm going to cover a palette. So I'm just going to start trimming it down to the size I need. I've got the palette right here. This was something from the fall that I'm repurposing to make for the Christmas season. Now I'm just going to lay it out on my palette and make sure that I get the top line. I'm just going to crease it with my fingers and then trim that as well. I want the slats to show on this palette sign, but I also don't want to lose any of that design in between. So what I'm doing is taking my pencil and I'm marking the line where I need it to be. Then I'm just going to trim off just that one line. Then I'm going to be able to take the image, place it onto the next piece of palette, and then do the same thing, trim off the end, and then I don't lose any of the design. What I'm going to do is just pour a little bit of Mod Podge onto the palette. I want to be able to put a really nice coat on here, but not too thick. So I'm going to spread it out using one of my chip brushes, and that's just going to get me more of an even coverage, but not too thick. Once I'm done that, I'm going to simply place the first piece of the design of the bag right on top of the palette and smooth it out. I'm going to trim off any of the excess bag just using my craft knife and being very careful not to pull too hard because I want to make sure that I don't rip the bag in the front. So I'm using a lot of pressure and I'm going really slow. To make the sign look a little bit aged, I'm going to very gently go with my sanding sponge here, and I'm just going to pull down, and that will just give my edges of the bag more of a roughed texture. I'm also going to give the corners a little bit more so it looks like they're worn down. To embellish the reindeer, I'm going to take a couple of these greenery picks and just trim them down to make them a little bit smaller. The fluffiness is good for some projects, but not for this one. Each of my reindeer are going to get a little greenery collar, some jingle bells, and a couple of red pip berries to finish it off. I think this sign turned out absolutely adorable, and it will make a wonderful accompaniment to my Christmas decor this year. I got these two chalkboard wooden sleighs last year at a dollar store, and I'm going to be adding this crate from Michael's right onto the middle of it. I'm going to create a standing wood sleigh rather than using these as chalkboard signs. So I'm just going to glue this one down and then I'll put the other one on top. Now I have this cute little sleigh that will stand up on its own. Using a white chalk marker, I'm going to mark off what I don't want to paint. I'd like to leave the rails black, and I'm also going to draw a line on the top of the sleigh because I want that to be some black trim as well. Kind of make it look like it's metal on the top and wood on the inside, but you'll get what I'm doing and you'll see it in just a few minutes. Using my own DIY chalk paint in white, I'm going to give the interior of the sleigh a couple of coats. I'm also going to paint the crate white, but just the outside of it and the bottom. And I'm also going to paint the inside of the chalkboard pieces. You can see here that I've already started one. I'm also going to give the black portion of this sign a little bit of a freshening up. It got some scratches and different marks on it because it was hanging out in my stash in a box for a whole year practically. So I just want to make this a nice clean surface. I'm also going to need to fix up some of the areas on the top where I marked with the white chalk paint but decided to change it up a little bit. So I'm always on the lookout for black and white buffalo check stuff. I really have a hard time finding the scrapbook paper. Our Michaels just doesn't carry it, and we're in Canada, so there we don't have a Hobby Lobby. I have printed some off just on regular white paper, but I don't like the look of it. So I decided to go over to my Cricut Joy and I purchased this Stencil SVG, which is a cut file on Etsy. And I went ahead and put it through my Cricut Joy with the plastic poster board that I've used before. I've also mentioned that earlier in my channel videos as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use a makeup sponge and just dab on the black paint wherever I need it to be, and this will turn out with a beautiful rustic buffalo check design. I needed to find a way to cover up those holes, and I hadn't wanted to use spackling before I painted, so I'm just tying a really jumbo size knot into this thin twine. I'm pulling it through the one end of the sleigh, and now I'm going to feed on 8 of these beautiful dark red beads. These beads are something that I picked up at a thrift store last year. I got a huge bag. I think I got 6 or 7 of the garlands like this for $6. So I was super excited when I found those. I used them for my tree last year, but I decided this year I'm going to do something different with my tree. So I'm going to start using these for my decor instead. I'll feed the end of the twine through the other hole, and then I'm going to try and tie another huge ginormous knot, and it took me a little while to figure this out, but I did finally get it. And then I'm just going to trim off those little loose tails. I'll do the same thing for the front of the sleigh. I'm going to add 3 pieces of styrofoam into the crate just with some hot glue to fill it up. I decided to put a little Christmas village onto this sleigh. So I'm going to use some of that reindeer moss that you can get at the Dollar Tree, but I needed to put something other than hot glue on it because the hot glue is, of course, is just going to melt the styrofoam. I should have just put a piece of cardstock on top, but I did just use some Mod Podge and plopped on the reindeer moss. Then I needed to just take some wire and just hold the reindeer moss in place. This is something that was really easy to do. I just cut the wire in a few different lengths, bent them into a U shape, and then pushed them into the styrofoam. Using some wooden shapes, I'm going to glue them together to create a little wooden house. So I'm going to start by gluing the square right on top of a Dollar Tree tumbling tower block, and then I'm going to put the little triangle right on top, creating the roof. I'm going to create 2 of them, one a little taller than the other, so I'm just going to add a second tumbling tower block to that one. Using my favorite way to stain raw wood is just with some burnt umber acrylic paint and a little bit of water. I just go ahead and squirt some water into a bowl and then add some of the burnt umber paint and then just put it all over my project wherever I need a little bit of stain. To give the moss a little bit of snow, I'm just taking my stencil brush and dunking it in my white chalk paint and then just pouncing on top of it just to give it a little bit of white. I've got a few of these dollar store bottle brush trees and I'm just going to snip off that little white piece at the bottom. I don't want to have that on there because I want these to nestle right into the moss. I'm going to use a large amount of hot glue and then I'm just going to hold them in place until the glue has a chance to set. With the little houses, I decided to glue them in on an angle just so you could see them a little bit better from the side. To give the trees a little bit more of a Christmas look, I'm taking again some of these little Dollar Tree pip berries and I'm going to hot glue them right inside the trees. So I'm just going to push them in and they'll look like little berries. I also wanted to add a little bit of something to the houses, so I'm just trimming off a couple of these little plastic pine stems, making them super tiny. I'm going to glue them together and then I'll add a couple of the red pip berries and then glue them onto the roof of the houses. I found a couple of these silver birch trees in my stash, so I decided to add those into the sleigh as well. I also added a stripe of red to pull all the colors together, and I think this project turned out pretty cute. I hope you enjoyed these 2 wood DIYs. I think they turned out pretty good. If you'd like them, please give me a thumbs up. That really helps me get noticed on YouTube. You'll also want to click that notification bell. That way you won't miss out on any of my future videos. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.